Your journal is lying to you. Every sentence you write has already been edited 30 times in your head before it hits the page. You're not capturing your thoughts, you're performing them. And as a founder, that performance is costing you the most valuable data you will ever own, your actual unfiltered mind. What if the most honest version of you only shows up on camera? What if the bags under your eyes after a brutal VC rejection, the way your posture shifts when you're burned out, the slight hesitation before you describe a decision you regret are worth more than any note you have ever typed. Your polished second brain isn't your second brain, it's your highlight reel. There's an iOS app in beta right now that captures your raw video thoughts like a journal, runs them through AI, and hands you back monthly reports on who you actually are as a founder. No performance, no template, just you, the camera, and the truth. What if the person most in the dark about your own performance has always been you? Welcome to AI for Founders, I'm Ryan Estes. And Josh Gilmer, founder of Historic, is going to show you how video journaling plus AI can become the unfair advantage founders never knew they were missing. This one is for founders who are building hard but flying blind on self-awareness. And check out the AI for Founders newsletter at aiforfounders.co. This is where the sharpest founders are getting smarter every week. It's the newsletter your future self is already reading. Go get ahead of the curve at aiforfounders.co before your competition does. And if this episode hit different, then leave us a review and make it a weird one, because I'll read the weird ones. And right now I want to tell you about kitcaster.com. If you're a founder, executive, or expert who wants to get booked on top podcasts without spending hours chasing producers, Kitcaster is your unfair advantage. They are a premier podcast booking agency that gets you in front of the right audiences so you can build your brand, generate leads, and own your category. Go to kitcaster.com and let them put your voice where it belongs. That's Kitcaster by Moburst. Josh, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Heck yeah. So you are the founder of historic.app, which looks really, really interesting, largely because it's kind of a category of products that I would call an AI memory, which is basically creating a different database that we can store our thoughts, our writing, moments, work, documents, and put them in a special place. I love this category. I think it's only going to grow. And I'm particularly interested to talk to you because you're really in kind of build mode, still figuring out kind of like where is going to be the place for traction. So I wanted to welcome you to the conversation and also see if you could give us kind of flesh out what Historic is and what's the vision of the product.
Yeah, I'd love to. So Historic is an AI video journal. And you've probably heard it preached, often that you really need to be journaling if you're a founder. Like, it is a serious unlock. And I'm not saying just like copy pasta a bunch of little things and meeting notes into a notes app or Notion and have this, scattered mess of your ideas and thoughts. It needs to be a concerted effort. So I have used a few of these tools that exist from Notion, Obsidian, Reflect. And what I noticed, especially as AI started to take off, is that a lot of these thoughts weren't my own anymore. They were things that I pasted in from a conversation that I had with ChatGPT, or the notes that I had followed a very specific formula, day in and day out. I had a template, and as long as I checked all those boxes, I felt like I had journaled for that day. And I really had not journaled. I had, met those minimum requirements of saying that I did A, B, and C, and that wasn't helping me grow as a founder. So I created Historic as a video journal because video gets you closer to your thought processes and the things behind your thinking. If you look at a journal, you're looking at polished thoughts, and you may not even realize it, how fast your mind moves, that you have probably done 30 takes in your mind for every sentence that you get in your journal at the end of the process. So Historic is nice because it's just like what we're doing right now. We're in a podcast, we're talking, we're riffing. The same thing is happening with your video journal. You have to look at yourself. You can't, lie to yourself because you're right there in the camera. It's just not as effective. I have found that audio is close to the same experience, just like audio recordings, except you kind of get distracted by your own voice, and you really lose a little bit of that extra context that can be very helpful. So for a founder, if I'm meeting a lot of VCs, it's nice to know what I wore the last time I saw that VC. And I'm not writing that down in my journal, right? But if I can go back and see the thumbnail or ask my AI agent, what did I wear the last time I saw them? What did we talk about? That's very helpful information. So yeah, we want to get from, just these finished thoughts that aren't really your second brain. And, I hear that term very often is, we're building our second brain and now AI is helping. Well, that second brain is just your polished thoughts. And if all you're going to do is recall and polish thoughts, that's really not your second brain. If you can get down to your analytical thinking, how you came up with these processes, how you're thinking, that information can be valuable as you build out this agent, or as you build out something that helps you in the future when you do startup number 2 or number 3.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about video journaling, and I like that you have some pretty interesting frameworks around what that is, and particularly where it's been helpful for you is kind of as a founder. So are you positioning then Historic as being kind of a founder video journal?
Absolutely. So, there's other people that will get a lot of value out of it. I have had a few early users that are content creators, and it's nice for them to have a camera on that isn't going straight to YouTube or to TikTok, that they can have a moment to like talk about their thoughts about the day and then have that returned back to them later. So one of the features that we have is that after the transcription process, AI is looking for, what did you say that might be shareable? So the goal is not performance. I don't want your video journal to turn into a performance. But if you say something that's very interesting, wouldn't it be nice to have that and have a little backlog of things that you can do to have your personal brand growing alongside your company?
Percent. Yeah. So it seems like people are kind of right now. I've spoke to a lot of people that are like, okay, my personal life is in GPT, and then my professional life is in Claude. Now, what's the advantage? I could create a GPT project and basically record and document things there. What's the advantage to having another application?
Yeah. So this is an application, one where you really do have your own thoughts. You don't have a mix of a conversation with ChatGPT. You don't have things that you can't really align to, like, what was I thinking when I said that? What was the context? So what we're offering is, being closer to the metal, I guess. Like I said, if you can get just your words out unfiltered, that is some powerful data that nobody else has. And so, yeah, it's nice to have a conversation with ChatGPT, but that kind of molds your conversation back and forth. That's more of an interview style. It's more like what we're doing right now versus you just sitting in front of a camera for 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening, maybe ad hoc throughout the day. Like, hey, I just accomplished this, and this is how I'm feeling about it. Those are good things to have, and especially good for a founder.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It reminds me of, what was that McConaughey movie where he's an astronaut and he's recording all the video journals, and then his daughter sees him like 30 years later?
Yeah, yeah. Interstellar, I think, right? Yeah.
Interstellar. Yeah, great movie. This episode is brought to you by a dangerous idea. It's called reading, specifically the AI for Founders newsletter. 47,000 founders strong now, and it's the good stuff. No top 10 AI tools that will change your life written by someone who doesn't ship product. It's just real breakdowns of what's actually working in AI. Who's raised, who failed, who pivoted, and which founders quietly built $1 million in ARR while everyone else was arguing on X. It's written for people building with AI. Every week you get tactical frameworks, unfair advantages, breakdowns of real companies, and the occasional existential question about whether your startup is intelligent or just well-branded. It's free, it's sharp, it might mildly offend your current workflow. Go to aiforfounders.co and subscribe before your competitor does. Because the only thing worse than being replaced by AI is being replaced by a founder who reads. That's the newsletter at aiforfounders.co. Now back to the show. Great movie. Okay, I totally get it. Now, So it's not an interview style. Rather, it's 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. You sit down, you just brain dump. You just, hey, this is what's coming up for me right now. A little bit spontaneous. Here's what my day looked like. Here's maybe what my challenges were. And I'd love to hear it from you because I'm not a journaler. I do write nonstop. I publish personal blogs. I write music. My written journals, if you look at them, it looks like, I don't know, a diary from a schizophrenic, kind of. And honestly, I think there's actually a schizophrenic spectrum, and
Yeah.
I think that there is a range in there, and I would say that
Hmm.
I might be on that spectrum in some capacity, only because I remember seeing artwork from schizophrenics, all respect, and I was like, boy, that looks familiar. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
We won't talk about the schizophrenic spectrum. But I would love to hear, like, what is kind of the recommended session? I got 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. Me as a founder, like, what would be important things that I can come into Historic and document?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll circle back for just a second and say you'd have to be crazy to think you're perfectly sane. And so, yeah, it definitely helps to get these thoughts out. And I think a lot of people have trouble just expressing themselves, and then they feel really bad when they don't know themselves. And the reason why is because they're not expressing it through any channel. And so any channel, even written journals, are just great. But yeah, what we do is we have kind of this morning focus. So the morning focus session, we hope that you get in there and you say, I'm planning to do A, B, and C this afternoon. I'm having this meeting. Here's how I'm feeling about it. And then we have moments throughout the day. So we hooked it up to the action button on the iPhone. So you can hit that button and then it starts a countdown immediately. 3, 2, 1, you're recording. So quickly getting to capture is what we want. And if you can capture those, quick wins, something that just happened, you just left a meeting and you want to like remember a certain thing that happened in that meeting. I hooked up agents to, Zoom meetings and Google Meets, and then that just became a graveyard for like a bunch of content that didn't really help me. What I really want to do is just distill those quick thoughts, or this thing that I did. I find that with Claude, I come in and I accomplish so much so fast that I can't even begin to like keep track of what all I did in a day. So for me to just be able to record real quick and say, hey, I shored up a little bug in authentication today. I did A, B, and C, and then have that as a report at the end of the month. That content's really, really valuable for me. And finally, we end the day with evening reflection. So if you can start the day with a little bit of focus, end it with reflection. What went well? What didn't go well? If you had a goal to call, 15 VCs, like what happened with all that? Don't let it just be that I have goals and no measurement at the end of it.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. Super cool. I love this. What's interesting too is like if you're recording audio and video, you have your intended transmissions, which have a lot of cool applications, maybe like McConaughey, in
Yeah.
30 years, you can sit with your grandson and be like, look I got the same problems as you, man.
Yeah.
It just cycles back and forth.
Yeah.
But you also have the unintended signals that you don't know you're emitting. And what I mean is, I've interviewed several founders in the AI kind of medical field on the podcast. One who does interesting diagnosis through audio. So it can detect Parkinson's, it can detect dementia, it can detect depression, anxiety, all through your voice. So he has kind of like an Alexa type device that can sit there and, I don't know, it beeps when you're too tired or something. I'm not exactly sure
That's
the end
great.
result, but ultimately it's for a diagnosis tool. And then another one that does the same thing with video, which is to say these tools from AI medically are coming very, very quickly. But basically all of the input that they're going to have is when you begin using them. Now, if you have a backlog, let's say a year,
Yeah.
2 year of daily journals that it could access in some, obviously opting in, but it can access and see like, okay, actually, we know from your voice, your posture, your hairstyle,
Yeah.
your beard length, we can make some of these assumptions and diagnose certain things, So if it is, it's like, well, Ryan, you were talking about being on the spectrum in 2026. We've actually seen evidence of this. It's actually, yes, you are, but it's also been improving. And you're like, oh, great, I'm doing awesome. So there's an
Yeah.
interesting documentation that could be used potentially in the future for diagnosis.
Yeah, I have been thinking along the same lines, which is if I can just get this capture out now, the AI is only going to get better.
Yeah.
The things that we can do with visual AI and being able to see like your mood change and maybe track that against your productivity. It might be able to detect burnout early. Might be, right now I know it can detect some really great things. Like I get a monthly report on everything that I've said, and I need to kind of gauge this around personality types and how people receive feedback, because the feedback I got was just brutally honest the first time around. I was like, wow, that cut really, really to the quick. And I was like, oh, I don't disagree at all. This is really good information. But if I gave this to every user that I had, I feel like some of them would just run screaming the other direction. Like that was a little too real for me.
Yeah. Well, like founders, being a founder in particular is exceptionally difficult. The work is hard. The emotional toll is really hard. And so for me, thinking about how do you optimize to give your best performance so that you can kind of stand up to the challenge of like all the different things that are hitting you all day long, And for me, the mental emotional component is a piece of it, but I don't like to be like, oh, I'm having a bad day because this deal didn't come through, or I'm having a great day because I closed 3 deals, or Bob, basically there's something intrinsically uncomfortable with me for like having the outcome of my day dictate my mental emotional state, which is maybe it's just an aspirational desire from my years spent studying Buddhism, that you're like, oh man, you should exist on a higher plane. Of course we're not. We are influenced by those things. But it's also to say that it's not just work or relationships that's dictating some of that stuff. A lot of times for me, it's physical exercise. I feel 100 times better if I wake up at 6, go do yoga, then hit the desk. It's caffeine intake. Once I hit my 4th cup of coffee, I'm not going to be performing as well as if I hit my 2.5, So, I'm getting used to documenting like my behaviors and all of these different things, so it's like you got the Apple Watch for your blood pressure and your heart rate variability, and it's got more and more sensors all the time. You've got like Cal AI where I'm documenting all my food, the timing, the amounts, all of that stuff. So we are building like this massive database. Now, what's interesting how Historic might fit into that is that this does give you a little bit of sense of, mental, emotional states. Now, because I'm a natural salesman, I'm going to get on Historic every day and be like, hey, great day. Did this, and this. Everything was great. Good to see you. And I'm out. And I mean, I'm not going to divulge information. I just know I won't because I won't want to watch that. But what's interesting with AI is that it can detect maybe the bags under my eyes are a little bit bigger that day. And these are shadows also. Like I kind of get obsessed with like, do I have terrible bags under my eyes? But it's a shadow from the brim of my glasses. Or it'll detect a slight subtleness in my posture. Like it can see my physical tells of my mental emotional state. So then you start to aggregate all that data and it's like, okay, Ryan, here's what we know. A frozen burrito at 11:30 plus 2 cups of coffee is your sweet zone. We want you to do yoga at 6:30 because we can tell the beginning, end of the day, here's what we can kind of break down for you, which is just kind of pointing to the fact that we're this kind of optimized life, and to kind of like accentuate the good feelings and human flourishing, we're just at the very beginning of it.
Absolutely. That's really well put. I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of different disparate pieces of information out there, but there is a gap. There is something missing, which is these conversations. And after doing them for as long as I've been doing them, the veil kind of comes off after a little while. You may be like, oh, everything's great and everything's awesome. But if you get into the habit of just doing it, the camera kind of becomes invisible, and you do just say like, "Here's what's going on. Here's like, I'm giving it 6 months and then I'm out." I feel like defeated and deflated today, and you feel less apprehensive about being vulnerable with yourself, which is a great place to be. So yeah, if you can get to that spot, I think it's very helpful. I'm talking to other companies that are kind of building, like I think Pacific is one of them. They're trying to bring all that information together, because you're right. Some of it exists in ChatGPT, some of it exists in Claude, some of it exists on my Apple Watch. It's like, how can I give AI enough information, enough context to really help me out? And we will get there at some point. And having this backlog through Historic, I think, will fill a very big void in that content area that you just don't have today.
Yeah. I mean, bridging the gap, give me 4 Mac Minis and OpenClaw, I'll have it to you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And
Cool.
a $2,000 bill from all the API usage
per day. Yeah,
Yeah.
tokens just going absolutely bananas. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Love the idea. Now, tell me where you are right now, because there's a join the wait list on the application. How far have you built this out?
Yeah. It exists as an iOS app. So I would love to get new users on. So we're approved in test flight beta. So it's really easy to onboard users and have them check us out. But it's very new. It's an inchoate thing. It's still being built.
Yeah.
But what I really wanted to get right off the bat was that we could not lose any of this information, because there's nothing worse than like recording, putting your thoughts out into the world and losing it. So I've seen, some other people that do this kind of stuff, not for this, specific, not for founders, not AI, not as much content as we're doing. I think we're at an inflection point now where we can actually record a lot more than we ever have from our phones. They're powerful enough. So yeah, I'm looking for, about 100 users to come on and burn through my tokens and use up my storage credits, and cost me probably a good $25 a year just to learn with me and make sure that we're doing this right and that we're providing value. And I'll happily reward that with free use for, like I said, at least 100 users. I can't scale up to thousands because I'm bootstrapped right now. But yeah, I would love to have people giving me feedback about how this is helping them month to month.
Great. How did you build it? What was your tech stack to build it, and how'd you push it through iOS store?
So, Claude is just taking the Netflix model, like wherever people are, we need to be in that system. Like Netflix used to be on the Xbox and the Apple TV and everywhere. I feel like Claude is like, yeah, you open up Excel, we're here. You open up Xcode, we're here. So I worked with Claude really well. My tech stack was Swift for a lot of it. But yeah, Supabase, using that for auth and DB, and there's not a lot to it. Next.js for a marketing site and some of the API calls we're doing, but it's a pretty modern stack, and yeah, looks good on the latest and greatest version of iOS with all that liquid glass. And I don't know where you land on that, but it looks like it belongs on your phone today.
Cool. Yeah, liquid glass. It's just like Apple just hasn't surprised me in some time,
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, okay. It's consistent. It's a good product, obviously. But the glass, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, take it or leave it.
Did any snags getting it through the iOS store?
Just through test flight, they're not as burdensome as they could be. So I anticipate that I'll probably have to change a good deal when we actually launch live to everybody. But I can have 10,000 users in test flight before we get to that point. And so I'm building for founders, and founders are typically somewhat technical. And so if you're a CTO, you're not going to feel apprehensive about, getting test flight and trying the app before it's officially released.
Sure.
But I anticipate, they'll, especially first version, getting that first launch, you're going to go back and forth with Apple a few times before that happens.
Yeah, 100%. Amazing. Okay, I just signed up on the website. I want to be one of those first 100 users. I'm going to see if we can push this and get you some good feedback because I love this idea. I think it's great. You know, I also like that it's
Appreciate it.
kind of private by nature and free. So those are two of my favorite things. I mean,
Yeah.
one thing also is that, how honest and vulnerable am I going to be if I'm writing it down on a piece of paper? I don't want my wife coming in here and knowing all my secrets. She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you're feeling so sad. Like, you should have told me." Like, stop. No, I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
kidding. But there
That's
is
a good
something
point.
about like, there is something scary about leaving a paper trail. You could ask Al Capone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have to go to a room in my house where my wife isn't and where my kids aren't coming in and out because I want to create that space where I can be vulnerable. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, the nice thing is, we've got biometrics on the phone and we've enlisted them. So like, I can't go into your library and you can't go into my library. You'd have to have my biometrics to look at anything. But really, it's just getting that information out there. I don't even really watch the videos. At first, I would kind of go back and watch the videos. I don't really watch them. It's
Yep.
transcribed, summarized, pulls out the topics. Um, Now it's, just there for posterity, right? Just so that my kids can watch it someday. Just so
Yeah.
AI can get more from that higher fidelity of capture that you wouldn't get from audio or just journaling or typing things down.
Amazing. All right, we're ready to enter the quantum round. Josh, are you ready?
Sure.
First is a challenge question, the founder challenge question from kitcaster.com. If you could search every decision you've ever made, what would you want to know first about it?
I could search every decision I've ever made. Oh man, I can. I go back. So I would actually just say I don't want to search every decision I made. I just want to be coached in the present accurately. I want it to know all the mistakes I made and all the victories and just coach me in the present.
Love that. So, the future of productivity, is it going to be about doing more and more or actually remembering more about what you've already done? I suppose this is a bigger question, which is kind of what I've been kind of thinking about, which is, you know, the productivity tools were meant to take work off our plate, but boy, I'm working 10 hours a day,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, maybe
Alan Watts.
how could this influence kind of the future of productivity?
Yeah. I go back to Alan Watts. So if you go all the way back to before AI really exploded, um, before the movie Her came out, and look at where I was in life. I was reading a little bit, watching videos of old archives of Alan Watts talking about metaphysics and all kinds of things. And one of the things he talked about that struck me was productivity, money. What is money? What is productivity? Why do we need to do the things that we do? And they were talking in the 60s, 70s. They were talking about the computers and things that were coming around that, oh, it's just going to be great. You'll have more free time to spend with your lady friend. You'll go to you know more shows. You'll have a more fulfilled life. And yet, because we're competitive, we say, cool, I've got this new free time that I can dedicate to doing more, more of. And so, yeah, but the thing is, you can't compete with 100,000 AI agents working. And once, it reaches IntelliKey, once it's like perfected, I think, yeah, then there is this moment where we think about, well, what do I do with my time? What is the most valuable use of my time? So as a parent, I want to save as much as I can for my kids and enjoying their childhood. Because by the time my kids are 12, I've spent like 80% of my time with them or something crazy. It's just like, wow, that went by really fast. So I don't want to have any regret from that stance. I just want there to be not just fruit to my labor, but the most fruit possible. So I think we'll be using AI to question whether or not we're even doing the right thing in the first place. Like, is this
Yeah.
going to matter in a year, 5 years? Yes or no? Like, and taking a lot of the low hanging stuff off. But whether or not we overcome the wiring of the last 3 decades and say, I'm going to actually use this time for something that is more beneficial to me than just more output. Uh, that's going to be up to us collectively to decide how we're going to compete with each other.
Yeah, I totally agree. My kids are teenagers, and I was thinking about that same exact model of like they're 17 and 18. My daughter's already out at college. When she left, it hit me hard. It was really,
Oh, yeah.
really hard for me. And my son's 17, so it's like I'm thinking about this summer. I'm like, well, we got 2, 3 trips this summer. If we can do that before football season starts, and then after that you graduate high school, and that summer you're working, and then boom,
Yeah.
that time is very scarce. So when I think about like saving, it is time, like spending time with my kids, and I'm very fortunate that I spend a lot of time with my kids, and my favorite time that I spend with my kids is what I call garbage time, which is just like, it's 11 o'clock at night and you're just talking trash about sports, eating a frozen pizza.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing. But
Yeah.
but there is also like, but you also want to have those significant moments, which to me is like fly fishing on some like alpine lake, with my kids, and we're just chopping it up. We're doing something cool, creating memories. That I'm looking towards these tools to facilitate it. So
Yeah.
the other thing I want to save is money. So I'm looking at Historic. It's free. What's the business model? How are you going to basically get this thing to start pumping out the cheddar?
Yeah. So it won't be free forever, obviously. But I do want to reward early users with like loyalty discounts and whatever I can, because I'm a big proponent of paying back the people that are your first loyal people. Uh, so after that, the unit economics, they're always changing as far as like how much it costs to store and how much it costs for us to get AI to give back, good advice, good feedback, good transcription. But we're looking at nothing astronomical, like $10, $15 a month, and give you a terabyte of space. And then it'll kind of look like your Apple iCloud, like, oh, we used up that terabyte. You need another terabyte. It'll go up another few dollars.
Yeah. Which means $10 product on a monthly basis, you got to have, massive traction and adoption to make a good margin. So what's kind of like your go-to-market? How are you thinking about positioning this? Once you feel validated, you got 100 people on there, they're using it, you're getting feedback, you're tweaking the app. You're like, I think I got the product. How are you going to bring it to market?
Yeah, I hope that we provide so much value, we get some good testimonials, and then it's really easy to go to VC firms, not for capital, but to say, hey, how many people in your portfolio are using this? Because some of the most successful founders are. Would you like to just blanket this out to every founder in your portfolio? Same thing for innovation hubs, accelerators. There's just, a lot of places where founders exist and they don't have the tools that they need. And we try to give them what they need. Like here's a internet and coffee maker, and here's some things that you can have for, $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever it is. Here's a co-working desk. I think this is one of those tools that would be a no-brainer to put alongside all those other perks.
I'm thinking of like other kind of market share. I think founders a great opportunity because founders naturally want to track progress, so they'll use it. Also, they're in a high stress kind of position, so like they want to be able to document that. I also see there's kind of an emotional release associated with. Then you have kind of like a great feeling associated with the app. But I'm wondering if there's other kind of like people that could benefit. Like mothers. Like when mothers get pregnant and they can document their entire journey of the pregnancy and then the child, but it's like their story. One thing about moms is they get eclipsed really quick by the baby. All the
Yeah.
attention's now on the baby, and this is something they can do for themselves. I don't know, just kind of spitballing ideas. It seems like there's a lot of people that could benefit.
Yeah, it could definitely grow. To a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so I see as a founder, I'm using it as a founder, and others could definitely benefit. But you're right. Like I love the idea of moms being able to use this, because you get that book that they give you at the baby shower where you fill in all the memories and things that your kid did in the first year, and you look back at it and you're like, oh, I did good the first 5 weeks and then nothing. So I need to go back and say, oh, yeah, my baby says this cute little thing over and over again. And this is when they took their first steps. Like, it really is about speed to capture, because as a parent, yeah, you're just inundated very quickly. And it's so nice to be able to just turn on your camera and start recording what they do. But I think you should flip that camera back around on yourself and say, my kids did great. My kid hit his first home run today in baseball.
Here's how I'm doing, Yeah.
Yeah. Personal use is just great too, because, we read a Harvard Business Review article every other week that says AI hasn't added any productivity to any of the Fortune 500s, and AI isn't doing anything for anyone. It's creating more apps, but nobody's actually using them. And I'm like, that can't be completely true. On the one hand, it's a little bit hyperbolic to say that. But then on the other hand, I know everybody can agree, personal use, like, oh yeah, I was having a fight the other day and ChatGPT, was a good, impartial, like, third party and wasn't biased and helped me see, yeah, I'm being a bit of an ass right now and I need to go back and apologize. Yeah, my wife's in the hospital and the doctors aren't talking to us, so I'm asking ChatGPT everything about, the personal use is there. So I know that there's absolutely a future for AI, and, as far as where it fits in the corporate world, that will be figured out at some point too. But yeah, it's definitely being used heavily in my personal life.
Yeah, I want to hover on the parenting thing a little bit and maybe speak a little philosophical about where we're going. So,
Yeah.
one thing we know about parents is they'll do absolutely everything to protect their kids. We're going to enter a new level of hover parenting the world has never seen before, which we could just say, like, right now, this year, there's going to be a product, I don't know this for sure, but I would build it if I could, where you give your newborn baby its first stuffed animal, and it's a little giraffe. And that baby loves the giraffe. And inside it is a camera, microphone, all the sensory apparatus that you can record and keep tabs on the vitals of your baby 24/7. And the baby's going to have that little giraffe for 5, 6 years. And it's going to be like, okay, now I like this monkey. And you're going to take the brain out of the giraffe and put it into the monkey. And then that's going to graduate until they get their phone. And now they're locked in. So now if you flash forward, let's say 20 years, now, every single moment of that child's life, and only with increasing inputs, do you have documented in this second brain. They're 20 years old. It knows everything. It has everything. Which do you think would be more valuable to that kid, their actual memory or their structured data second brain?
Yeah. So you start to get into implanted memory, and you get into a lot of things. Like, obviously our own memory is faulty. If you look back at an early childhood memory and you picture it, you close your eyes and you get it right now and you see what's happening. If you're in the memory, if it's a third person and you're somewhere in it, that's obviously architected. That is a reconstruction of the experience in your mind. It is not what actually happened. So yeah, you could capture a lot more, a lot better, by building this up. Where it worries me a little bit is every technological turn. We get these big turns every 10, 15 years, and they happen more often. We become less reliant on each other. So if you think back to before the internet, you got everything. You bought things from your grocery store. You bought things from your Radio Shack. You bought things from everything that was around you. There was a place called Circuit City and Blockbuster, and all those places are gone. And you have no relationship. You just have an interface. And so all that changed. And then we got social media and became way less social. We got our smartphones, and we just get these new levels of autonomy where we can do more without having to have all the relationships that we used to have. So my biggest worry as a parent is, how can I ensure that AI is helping build relationships and build a little bit more reliance and less insulation, less time with an AI companion. AI companionship scares me more than anything else. Like, that's not what I want for my kids, is to have this relationship with ones and zeros, no matter how good it gets. I really want them to really be in a community. That's one of the, if you look at blue zones, you look at people that live to be 100, they have that. And I know at nursing homes, they have little pet seals that you can pet and they feel like a dog and don't go bathroom everywhere. So that's, that's two sides of the spectrum. You can have, AI that is with you at the end because nobody else is, or you can have community and live, to be 100. So that kind of speaks to a little bit my other company, the company that I'm building that created the need for historic, which is called Luau, and that is using AI to orchestrate your social life and prevent relationships from drifting apart because you got a job or kids or whatever it is in adult life that makes it harder for us to get together on a healthy cadence.
Yeah. Well, I think our natural proclivities,
Yeah.
as humans is to have tribes and to spend time with them all the time. So we are siloed, but I wonder if it's to do with, the technology that we're experiencing, or if it's just the boomers being so susceptible to advertising that they bought that hook, line, and sinker, and the greatest generation. You know what I mean? Now, I don't blame them, but the advertising companies back then, it's like, oh, you're 18, kick the kids out of the house because we need to sell 2 lawnmowers, 2 vacuum cleaners, 2 cans of Campbell's soup. So all the parenting instincts were like not nurturing. It was like the tough love and the like, my way or the highway kind of stuff that I grew up with. That now maybe you're seeing this technology, we can see the kind of errors in that ways, which is like, no, man. And I talk to my kids about that. It's like, look, dude, there's no pressure. There's no pressure to go out and do everything by yourself. You always have home here. Like we could move to a big compound together with your family and our family. You see, I'm trying to strategize here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
my wife and I do that.
Yeah, through these tools, it's like, I think that's folly. I think you're right. I think people have been isolated, and the technology will bring us back to what like we should have clans and kinship and tribes and being dispersed all over the place where there's 4 mortgages instead of 1, and there's 5 car payments instead of 3. Like there's a way to kind of like pull things together and create like little micro communities that I think may actually appeal to humans. Biology a lot better.
Yeah, yeah. We're not supposed to do it alone for sure. And yeah, you kind of look at cultural differences and you see other cultures that value, the elderly a lot more than we do here. And it's just like, oh, well, that's a different mindset. And then, but you see like, oh, that's cool because the grandparents living with the grandkids under the same roof, they're able to tell their stories and connect them to their history a lot better. And here it's just, yeah, you don't realize what's been normalized. And I don't even realize what's been normalized over my own lifetime. Like, I was born in '84. So since then I've seen all of it. But it's just, yeah, every technological advance, you can either use it to become more insulated or you can try to use it for something better. So I feel like AI, as powerful as it is, you really need to put in the effort to make sure that it's for the better.
Yeah. The only downside is you can't, I can't, when I was growing, or when my kids are growing up, I did a lot to accentuate the legend of dad. And it wasn't until last summer that they figured out that I didn't hit 6 home runs my senior year, because they saw some old clippings from a high school newspaper and I could just see over their face, just like, the aura of dad was diminished greatly. They're like, oh, you're a liar. But it was great. For 17 years, I was like, oh yeah, I had 4 interceptions, 6 home runs. I was absolutely killing it. And now kids will just be like, no, I rewind my second brain. I see you're lying. You don't want a 4-year-old checking you like that. Be like, you don't know anything with your second brain. We didn't have second brains back then.
Yeah. The kids they're second guessing their parents a lot earlier in life. Usually you had to wait for them to become a teenager to say you don't know anything, dad. But I don't know. I've got a 6-year-old that says it pretty often already.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, you love my pancakes. What's wrong with this? They like rewind. They're like, nope, January 14th, I told you these were too wet.
Yeah.
Oh, Josh, this has been so much fun, buddy. Thank you so much. Please, everybody go check out historic.app. Sign up for the wait list, get the a link to the iOS and practice. Help Josh out, make this like a really, really cool product because I really feel like it's going to be. Josh, what's the best place for people to connect with you online?
Uh, LinkedIn. I know that sounds sad, but it's just the best place. Yeah, Joshua.Gilmer, Gilmer.
Cool. And that will be in the show notes down in below that you're listening or watching the video. So appreciate everybody watching the show. Josh, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This episode is brought to you by MoBurst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. MoBurst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, MoBurst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At MoBurst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, MoBurst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result, marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At MoBurst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to MoBurst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together.